babe. Are you okay?
Can we not film right now, please? Can we not do this?
Is this because the Mavericks traded Luka Johnson?
It's Luka Doncic.
Yeah, I said that. Luka Doncic.
His name is Luka Doncic.
Yeah, I said that. Luka Doncic.
No.
Luka Doncic. I'm not making fun of you.
Luka Doncic.
Yeah, Luka Doncic.
No, who do you know that's named Juka? Who? No, his name is Luka. Stop calling him Juka Johnson, because it's Luka Doncic.
I know, it's Luka Doncic.
Why? What is that? This is important to me. This is important for us.
Let's say the name together.
Okay, ready? Luka Doncic.
Doncic.
Get out.
Good morning, sweet world, and welcome to the No Dunks podcast on the Athletic Network. It's Tuesday, February 4th, 2025. I'm Jay Skeets here in the Classic Factory, and alongside me, as always, Tess Millis.
Podcast listeners, this is for you.
Next to him, it's the bearded one, my top shot hot boy, Trey Kirby.
Ayo.
Ayo. And over yonder, making the magic happen, super producer JD.
Oh, hello. There's a black box under there. Whoa. There I am.
Hey,
Podcast
JD.
listeners, that was for you.
Yeah.
Now that was embarrassing.
Yes. Hello to everybody joining us live right now on YouTube. Hit the like button, subscribe. Podcast listeners, we love you as well. Leave us a 5-star rating and review if you haven't. Lots of games to talk about, some slop to talk about. Obviously, you're going to go back to the Luka-AD trade because there's been some more Juka Johnson, because there's been more reporting on that. So lots to get to here, but we had another wedgie. They come in bunches. That's just how it works. And this one was Quentin Post on the, attempt at the putback. Sticks it in there on the rebound, the offensive rebound. So wedgie number 26.
The wedgieing Dutchman, that's what they call him.
Oh.
I guess. To hear Kelena Azubuike on the Warriors broadcast yell, wedgie! Mm-hmm. Hit my heart.
Yeah.
Just a former player that excited.
Yep.
He was super excited.
Good wedgie. I think only our second rebound wedgie of the year. And the first, again, on the offensive glass. I remember Champagny had one earlier in the year, but that was a defensive sort of tip situation. Yeah.
Nice. I like it. I like it when it's underneath the rim. It looks weird.
Yeah.
Oh, super weird.
Yeah.
All
Southern
right.
Hemisphere.
So good job by Post. Let's get into some games. Picked a few to talk about here with you guys. We watched a lot of these on playback last night. Shout out to everybody that joined us. Had a lot of fun. Trae Young took over in the fourth quarter against the Pistons. Helped the Hawks end an 8-game losing streak. I hadn't realized it was that bad. Yeah. So really needed this one. Trae did his thing. He hit a rainbow jumper, TK, that was just like a bit of a prayer shot. Malik Beasley then fell as he challenged it. Well, they both were on the ground, and when Trae got up, he did the old Allen Iverson step over like AI did to Ty Lue back in the finals. Very reminiscent of that, but 17 of his 34 in the fourth for Trae Young. They needed it.
This is the definition of good defense, better offense, because Malik Beasley was all over him. Trae Young doesn't take a side step to the right, 1 foot behind the three-point line, 1 foot inside the three-point line. He doesn't take that shot very much. He shot it so high up into the air, drops through nicely. Pistons had a chance on the other end. Poor pass by Cade Cunningham. Would have had to been perfect for it to work, but I was just wondering if Trae Young set up Malik Beasley like that. He fell down. Beasley was stumbling back. Trae tabletopped him a little bit. Went for the fully extended body. Beasley drops, and then Bob Rathbun called it the Motown Stomp. I thought that was a great line.
Oh, that is a great
by
name.
Bobby Boy. But it's cool. After All-Star reserves are announced, it feels like every game is a statement game.
Yeah.
And this one, it was like first-timer in Cade Cunningham versus snub machine in Trae Young. And Trae Young was just a little bit better in the fourth quarter. Like you said, 17 of his 34 points. He went 5 of 7 from the field, had an assist. Cade, 12 points on 3 of 5. And he was just having a little bit tougher time, I thought, getting to some of his shots. So good win for the Hawks. They absolutely needed it here. And if you're Trae Young and you put out your little tweet saying that we're not calling them snubs anymore, we're calling them Trays, this is a good way to show up against the guy who took one of your spots.
Yep.
Yeah. I do think he was surprised that Malik Beasley was lying under him because I think he saw it and then he just ad-libbed his celebration. He would usually go to the, I'm cold, but then he saw it and started stomping. I think the first step was, whoa, this guy is under me. I got to come up with a new celebration, and it is me doing the Motown stomp.
He sees him right there. He's like, I'm stepping over you.
Oh, got to do this.
Keep it going.
Yeah, exactly.
17 fourth quarter points, he said. and 16 field goal attempts throughout this game. I mean, that's not a lot. He got to the free throw line a ton, 14 free throws for him. I was a little surprised that Asar Thompson wasn't on him instead of Malik Beasley.
They gave up the switch there,
Yeah,
and he was on him a lot down the stretch.
And he did a good job.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Although, Malik Beasley was definitely right in front of him. I don't know about going to Tobias Harris for the game-winning attempt. I know the pass wasn't absolutely perfect, but Tobias Harris jumping straight up for the ball also wasn't perfect. He just kind of threw out his arm, but that's not Tobias's thing, to jump up straight in the air. It had to be absolutely like right there, while somebody else probably could have caught it and scored.
Yeah, exactly. They needed a pinpoint perfect pass. It wasn't, but also you probably have like a bigger margin for error if it's Asar Thompson or Jalen Durant being the guy jumping at the rim. But still, it would have had to be an awesome pass from Cade, and it was an okay pass.
Yeah, weird play in
this
this
very fast pass.
Yeah, it was.
He rocketed that.
Yeah, it was.
Weird play too. Obviously, in a close game, fourth quarter, 3:40 left. Detroit's down 2. Asar Thompson, who again was sort of hounding Trae Young, the pick came. There's too many bodies there. The ball like squirts out. Asar Thompson picks it up. He's all alone. Like, it's fast break, and he gets a little too excited and just fumbles it away like out to the baseline. And that was huge at the time. You're like, oh my God, is that going to be the difference maker? Now they lose. Now they got to stop and then scored, so it was all tied up again after that. But that's going to be, I believe, on Shacked a Fool, because it was a pretty rough one.
Right.
Yeah.
And it didn't look like it was going the Hawks' way either late, because it looked like they had a huge fart at the end of a shot clock where DeAndre Hunter he could have let it go. It was a beautiful attempt there. It was a minute 20 seconds left. It could have been a beautiful attempt, but he just dribbles instead. So I thought they were done.
Yeah.
It looked like they were done on their side, but the Pistons also farted as well. A little brain farts on either side.
There you go. Got your farts in for somebody that wanted that in the stream team.
I should have said brain fart for immediately, but I went fart.
Okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Dyson Daniels had a good game. Flirting with the 5x5. 19 points, 6 boards, 7 assists, 4 steals. And one of those steals was huge. That was the poke away on Cade Cunningham with like 35 seconds to go. That was big. And then 3 blocks. So he had the points, rebounds, assists. Those were taken care of. And then he had 3 and 3 there for like a majority of the fourth quarter. And we were talking, ooh, is he going to do this? But not easy to get 2 more steals, 2 more blocks in the final 9 minutes of a game. But he ultimately got 1 more steal.
I would say he's a candidate. He's a candidate to do a 5x5 at some point in his career.
Yep.
Yeah, that poke from Cade Cunningham was so quick. I had to look at it again and again just to see if Cade lost it, because it was super fast. But he made up for DeAndre Hunter's brain fart with that immediately after. It was beautiful. And he had a great game scoring. I thought the backdoor cuts, the running bank, don't see that from him too often. And the spin move on Isaiah Stewart, you definitely don't see Dyson Daniels do that very often, where he sets him up one way and Isaiah went diving like he's diving into the stew, and he got lost. You don't see that from Dyson Daniels. It looks like that game is expanding as they just let him go to work up top. Just do your thing, Dyson Daniels. Sometimes he makes it work.
And because we are, the biggest Vit Krejci fans on planet Earth, he had a good game for them. 13 points off the bench. He made a big play late, like it was sort of like a broken play. They're obviously trying to get the ball back to Trae. It found Vit in the corner, and he attacked, and then the defense collapsed, and he found a Okongwu, and he finished with like a beauty left-hand layup, but like smart play by him. He didn't sort of like panic in that situation. That was a huge, timely bucket. So they get the win. Hawks 132-130 to improve to 23 and 27. Am I alone? I didn't realize they lost 8 straight. I knew they were like reeling here after the Jalen Johnson injury, but not that bad.
Yeah,
so they snap it.
I'd been to 2 of them, and I didn't realize there was that many. It didn't feel like that many.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, the Jalen Johnson thing obviously gives us the reasoning, and we all say, oh, they're going to drop out of the play-in. That being said, this is obviously a big win in the play-in race. What also happened in this one, no Jalen, no Capella, no Bogdan Bogdanovic, who we all say is bound to be dealt here before the trade deadline. Does it hurt them that he's hurt right before the trade deadline? I don't know, but it is a guy that people want, I'm sure.
Okay, let's keep it going here. Let's move to Madison Square Garden. Fun game between the Rockets and Knicks. Jalen Brunson, though, the star, 42 points, 10 assists. They rally, the Knicks do, past the Knicks. They were down like 11 there at one point in the second half, but come back, and it was similar to what happened with Trae Young and the Hawks. It was Brunson takeover, TK. 17 of his points in the fourth quarter in a game that they did trail. He hit a layup there that put the Knicks ahead, and then he followed it up with a big 3-pointer, and that gave him a little space to play with as they got the victory.
I had him as MVP preseason. He's not going to win MVP, but he's going to win Clutch Player of the Year. The guy takes over every fourth quarter for the Knicks. You mentioned the scoring last night. He scored or assisted on 22 of the Knicks' last 26 plays. It was crazy, too, because through the first 3 quarters, you heard Clyde Frazier saying it on the broadcast the entire time. Every shot was tough for Jalen Brunson, like having to work so hard to get into his little side steps and his floaters. And then in the fourth quarter, it looked like easy mode for Jalen Brunson, getting anywhere he wanted, scoring and assisting. That was awesome. It's cool to watch, too. It was basically Jalen Brunson versus Amen Thompson for the Rockets, and it's like 2 completely different play styles. You've got craft guy and Brunson. You've got super athlete and Amen Thompson, who finished with a triple-double once again. Also had one of the highlights of the year, crossing up Precious Achiuwa and dunking on him on the same possession. Clyde, great line on that one. Feline quickness, canine aggression.
Yeah.
We were rolling on playback when he saw that one. This was a fun game to watch.
Yeah.
Rockets got out to a big lead. Knicks battled back. Rockets got out to another big lead. Knicks battled back. Really impressive stuff. Brunson just, if you've got him on your team, if you're the Knicks, you've got to feel good every fourth quarter because he's going to get the right shots, and he's pretty efficient when it comes down to it.
Yeah, spectacular game. We called it yesterday while we sat here and we're trying to promo playback. I'm sure we'll watch this game.
Yeah.
But this game came through, not just because it was in Madison Square Garden and the fans were into it. I think if you were in any gym anywhere, the fans, the casuals would be into it. It looked great, and it looked like the Rockets had this one as they were up late in this fourth quarter. And you saw spectacular plays. The one you mentioned with Amen Thompson, then Jalen Green had a beautiful inside out, and he went up and he switched hands over Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, that was gorgeous. I thought he was going to crown Towns, but he goes to the left hand. That looked great. And then Amen Thompson, another dunk with under 2 minutes left. That he just got it so fast.
Oh, yeah.
He dunked
it before the other Knicks players could even jump to react.
That was crazy, man.
The guy is just like in a league full of the best athletes in the world. He looks like on another level. It jumps off the screen. It's like everybody agrees. It's like, oh no, he's a different type of athlete.
That was feline stuff, man.
Yeah.
That was out of nowhere.
But you also saw his, his youthfulness, I guess, in a bad way, like a couple errors at the end. And he was being asked to do a ton suddenly as like, hey, you're the lead guy here. Go get us a bucket or go create something. And a couple times obviously got stopped or it slipped out of his hands and stuff like that.
Yeah, they didn't have Fred VanVleet to help out. They didn't have Şengün. Although Aaron Holiday was awesome in that fourth quarter. Aaron Holiday, this team is 3 point guards deep. We saw Reed Shepherd for a second there, but he got to sit because Aaron Holiday was coming through with big buckets. But then Jalen Brunson closed it. 17 in that fourth quarter, 11 in the last 4 minutes. He had 3 buckets in a minute, and he was the terror, giving it to the Terror Twins. He went back-to-back against Amen Thompson and Tari Eason, which are both great defenders. But what a spectacular game. And he got to the line, too. 14 free throws, just like Trae Young. 41, 10, 6 boards. He's also he's so resilient, going at everything. It's fun. And they didn't have OG as well.
Yeah.
So they needed somebody like that to help out. But what a game.
Yeah, Houston's bench, though, outscored the Knicks 41-12. They won the rebounding battle by 10. Houston did. The Knicks only shot 6 of 26 from 3. You don't see that all that often and win a game still where you hit 6 threes. They had 14 turnovers and still it was Brunson. They win this game solely because of Jalen Brunson in the fourth quarter. He was so special and he's just relentless, man. He now passed Carmelo Anthony when it comes to 40-point games as a Knick.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That is
fast.
Surprising.
Very fast.
Very
he
fast.
trails only Patrick Ewing, who did it 30 times, and Bernard King. I mean, 2 Hall of Famers there. And I think it was like Brunson's 18th or 19th or something like that. So he's going to likely pass Bernard King at the very least. Crazy. But man, back to that Amen Thompson play. Like, what I loved about that is you had Mike Breen and Clyde Frazier showing it well-deserved love despite it happening to the Knicks. Like Clyde is going, he had Precious on the ice skates. He kept saying that. And then he had the bars, like you said, after.
And he was going, oops.
As
funny.
Amen brings it up, does that crazy little inside-out dribble, has Precious stumbling. Credit to Precious, he didn't fall over and then gets back, but then gets dunked on because Thompson's that athletic. What a play.
Yeah, Precious persistence made it double the highlight, because he could have just allowed him and Thompson to drop him and dunk, but he went and got dunked on too.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Good effort.
So fun game. Definitely check out the highlights at the very least of the Knicks getting it done there against the Rockets, who I think have now lost 3 in a row. And
they have.
With the way Grizzlies are playing, and they picked up another W last night. A tiny little separation there between the second and third seeds in the West. Another game we got to talk about that we watched the ending of: DeRozan leading the Kings 116-114 to a road win over the Wolves. Now, I was going to call them like the new look Kings, but no Zach LaVine there on the roster. Just obviously no De'Aaron Fox, so it was DeRozan and Monk, leading again Sacramento to a pretty solid victory in Minnesota.
10 points in the fourth quarter for Monk, 9 in the fourth quarter for DeRozan, and they were basically just taking turns down the stretch against the Timberwolves, and the Timberwolves couldn't get a stop on either of them. It felt like DeRozan was in clutch player of the year mode, what back in his Bulls days, getting exactly to the spots he wanted. If it was a shorter guard like a Nickeil Alexander-Walker, even Anthony Edwards, he was just shooting over the top. If it was Jaden McDaniels, going by him, finishing at the rim as well. That was pretty impressive. Monk's been on quite a run here. He's been fourth quarter, the way they were playing. It's like, they have a decent lineup out there still. It was Monk, Murray, Sabonis, DeRozan, and Keon Ellis. Like, that's a decent closing lineup for the Sacramento Kings, a team they would have been playing anyways, had De'Aaron Fox been out with an injury or something like that. So I liked watching it. My question was, how does Zach LaVine fit in here? Because it felt like we're watching two guys take turns. Monk and DeRozan, they're both playing awesome. That's worked for the Kings here. Zach LaVine did not like being used as go stand there in the corner and wait for DeMar DeRozan to cook when he was on the Chicago Bulls. Part of that certainly was his relationship with Billy Donovan. Wasn't great, but definitely LaVine didn't like being superseded by DeRozan as the go-to guy. He wanted touches in the fourth quarter. I don't know where they're going to come from, but the Kings, as Bulls East or Bulls West, they should be better. Relatively.
Yes.
But they're still in the Western Conference, which is also better. So I don't know where that leaves them, but this was a nice win for the Kings, and great stuff from DeRozan and from Monk.
Yeah, DeRozan definitely looked like a number one guy where Zach is going to have to take a number 2 seat going down the stretch there. I don't know how the chemistry works. It is a big question, but they have the chemistry right out of the gate. 38 points in the first quarter. That ain't easy to do, but their offense looks great, and they closed it, obviously, with DeRozan especially 33 points on 25 shots, while Monk was 26 points on 23 shots. But DeRozan, the 7 assists, 0 turnovers. It seems like with Fox out of the way, he's the one, and that's it. But we will see how that all plays out with Zach LaVine and Monk behind him. And the other side, Anthony Edwards didn't look right. He came back from illness. Looked like he was a little sick out there still. Not so good.
Yeah, 7 of 21 for Ant, 21 points, 3 of 10 from deep. No Julius Randle.
3 turnovers, 4 assists.
Yeah,
no
yes.
Randles.
I thought he was worse on the defensive end.
Yeah.
I thought Edwards was getting cooked, and yes, he's coming back from an illness, but I feel like every time I watch the Timberwolves, they're always playing a close game, and I'm seeing Edwards' guy score all the time. He is easily screened. He's very easily pump faked, and he's getting beaten off the dribble quite a bit. Like, Monk dusted him a couple of times in the fourth quarter, getting wide open layups in half-court settings. Minnesota has played 31 clutch games. It's the most in the league this season. They're 13-18. They've won 41%. That's 25th in the league. That's the reason that their record is so poor this season. In clutch situations, they're 27th in offense. We know that's a problem because they just can't get good shots. They had like a 6-minute stretch here where they scored 2 points. Edwards didn't score in the fourth quarter until the game was over for the most part, but they're 24th in defense as well. They're supposed to be a good defensive team. They've got Anthony Edwards, who's supposed to be a good defensive player. I don't think he has been this season. McDaniels is looking a little bit better right now, but they should be able to get stops. Yeah. This is a team that is built as a defensive identity, and they don't really play any defense, especially in the fourth quarters, especially in clutch situations, and they just have to hope that Edwards is hitting threes. It's a weird team. That's why they've been so streaky this year.
Yeah. They need the Don back, and by the Don, I don't mean Luka. I mean the Dante. I think they have.
I didn't know who you meant, so I'm glad you clarified.
He's important. They don't have an identity in the fourth quarter, and I think they started to try and find one by putting Dante in the starting lineup and getting to that who they are, because they're still a good team. But they don't close games out very well, which, again, was something that happened last year, and they somehow found it enough, especially in the postseason. But their defense is lacking, especially on the perimeter. There's no doubt.
Another game of note, Devin Booker became the Suns' all-time leading scorer In a loss to the Blazers, they fall in overtime, but Book did pass Walter Davis's franchise record of 15,666 points. Hit a three there, close to midway through the third quarter. Hugged his family members at the next timeout. Given a pretty loud ovation, I thought, from the fans. Like, respect there from the Portland crowd. Pretty classy move. But, Portland got it done in the end. They're hot right now. This team is racking up victories. The Blazers had a 3-point lead. Avdia fouled Booker in the corner. Like, he was just way too close up on him, under him. Got the foul called, but Booker made the first 2 free throws, missed the third, and Ayton grabbed his 20th rebound.
That's a lot of roast beef.
That's right. He had a big game, 25 and 20, and Blazers got the 121-119 victory. So not good for the Suns. Congrats to Booker on becoming the franchise's all-time leading scorer. But, man, Portland, man.
Let me gas them up right now.
Yeah,
they're 21 and 29. That's not good. 13th in the Western Conference. They would be 10th in the East. They're tied with the Bulls right now. 4 straight wins. They've won 8 of their last 9 games. They went 8-8 in January. Like, these don't sound good. That was their first 500 month since December of 2022. The things that stick out to me, first and foremost, Denny Avdia is a starter now. Shaedon Sharpe went to the bench. That's when the winning started. 8 of their last 9, like I said, and that has been with Avdia as a starter there. It means more minutes for their best defenders in Avdia and Toumani Camara. Avdia's been awesome on the offensive end as well, driving all the time. Yep. He's generating free throws right now, like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, like Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think those are like the only 2 guys that have more free throws than Denny in the past 2 weeks. Nonetheless, I'm saying more minutes for their best defenders. Like Camara, I think part of the reason that Booker missed the free throws to tie the game at the end was that he had barely touched the ball in fourth quarter and overtime because Camara was all over him. They split up Simons and Sharpe, which is huge because you can't survive having both those guys on the court right now, especially Jeremy Grant. He's not really much of a defender now anyway, so they had a lot of guys you could go for. In the games that Avdia started, they're second in defense. Tiny sample size, but if you go back to January 1st, that's 18 games. They're 9th in defense. They have a little bit of an identity right now, which I don't think you can say for the Blazers at all during the Chauncey Billups tenure. They're looking okay right now. And the second thing, Scoot's hooping. Scoot's playing pretty well. 15 points, a couple of threes, 6 assists, and 2 turnovers last night. That's his averages since the calendar year started in 2025. Shooting 48% from the field, 42% from 3, taking almost 5 a game. He turned 21 last night. He played in goggles all last season because he didn't know he needed glasses.
Right. Context,
it ain't over for Scoot Henderson is all I'm saying.
Yeah,
they have a different team because he's comfortable coming off the bench even, and he looks good. There's a bunch of guys that look good. For them to be 21 and 29 is a heck of an accomplishment, as weird as that sounds. That's as many victories as they had last year. They were 21 and 61. Right. So kudos to them. Yeah, Denny Avdia is he looks like a great complementary player for a very, very good team. And they just need to get better a little bit more, across the board. That's for sure. But they do have a great defensive player in Toumani Camara. DeAndre Ayton against his old team is going to have a good game. There's no doubt about that. He was playing in overtime against Royce O'Neal. The Nick Richards experiment is not going well. Nick Richards played in this game. He sat in overtime. He was a minus 16 in his limited minutes. He started this game, but they didn't play him in overtime because the experiment just ain't going that well. He gets killed in space. That's what's going to happen. And the Suns are trying to find something. And it was cool how they got to overtime even. 40 seconds left. Kevin Durant blocks a 3-point shot from Jeremy Grant. That's a beautiful block, but somehow Jeremy Grant just grabs it and goes and dunks it. It's just a bad bounce for them. But Booker makes an extra pass to Royce O'Neal for the tying
that was
3.
Nice.
That was
he
pretty
could have
sweet.
fired that.
He could have
got a better even look from Royce O'Neal.
Yeah, on the night he became the franchise leader for sure.
Yep.
And then Triple B, a Bradley Beal block. You don't see that very often, but then they go to overtime, and DeAndre Ayton, very good against Royce O'Neal. I mean,
he should feast.
He probably should.
Hey, he took 6 free throws in overtime. That's like 2 weeks of games.
yeah.
Against
the old team, he's going to have his best game, that's for sure. 25-20. Only the 5th player this season with a 25-20. The other ones are just awesome.
I mean, Jokic
100 times.
Jokic probably
Giannis?
106. Giannis hasn't.
No,
surprisingly.
Sabonis,
yeah, and 2 others.
Rudy.
No.
Towns.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
good. Yeah.
And one more.
Vooch.
He was involved in a big trade. Not Vooch.
Luka?
No, the guy he
AD.
was traded
Oh, yeah,
for.
he just had his last game. He had 42-23, I think.
Yeah.
And now Ayton.
Hey,
Wow.
join some.
You can see why he went number 1.
That's right. Well, the funny part is like you do see it every once in a while. You're like, damn,
Yeah.
this guy's amazing, and then you're like, it's gone.
And then you're also like, should the Suns have just kept him and Toumani Camara?
Well, yeah,
Yeah, they should have.
Yes, they should have. Toumani Camara. Oh my God, I love he's becoming like the 3-and-D guy because he's
yeah.
hitting threes too. He
So
had
much.
5 last night. If you look back over the last little while, he's had other games where he went 5 for 5 in a game from deep. He's had another one where he went 4, got up a lot of attempts in that one. But like he's generally chipping in, 2 or 3, as I think he's like a 36% 3-point shooter. But that's awesome when you pair it with the defense because he's got to be able to like knock those down. So
He's
he
gonna
looks
have
great.
a great Rising Stars game.
You think so?
Why not?
Lockdown.
Man,
He's
little
so
defense.
good, man.
Give
He's
us
so
to
good.
us.
The Booker thing is pretty impressive, though. The guy's 28 years old.
Oh, I know.
He's first in points and only 7th in games for the Phoenix Suns.
scored a
I'm
lot.
like, wait, that doesn't really make sense to me. But then I'm like, okay, best player they've ever had, Steve Nash, not a huge scorer, right?
Yeah.
He was more of a passer. Next best player they had, Charles Barkley.
Barkley.
He wasn't there for very long. Amari Stoudemire, great scorer, but had injury problems. So yeah, Walter Davis, that's a guy I would like to know more about.
Yeah.
Because a Hall of Famer was leading the Suns in scoring for a long, long time. And it's like rarely discussed. And then you go to his basketball reference page. Awesome nicknames. Walt, Greyhound. Then it gets sexy. Sweet D. Candyman. The man with the velvet touch.
Jesus.
What was this guy doing? I'm going to research Walter Davis on Valentine's Day. That's all I'm saying.
He was
Man
he's like
with
a
the velvet.
6-time All-Star, right?
Yeah.
He like decent amount of accolades for sure. But I'm with you. Like nobody talks about
Uh-uh.
Walter Davis outside of I guess Phoenix Suns fans.
Sweet D.
Yeah. All right. So congrats to Booker there, but congrats to the Blazers on the win. Any other takeaways from Monday's NBA slate? A lot of other games.
Well, I will say Trey Murphy's had back-to-back 40-point games for the Pelicans. If there is anything positive, it's that this guy has grown and grown a lot in this season, maybe grown into a number 1 or 2 guy as an experiment, which could be what the Pelicans are looking at in the future. Besides that, and the Pacers won an ugly game. That doesn't happen very often. First game they've won this season shooting under 25% from 3. So that wasn't good. They're 12-2 in their last 14. They have locked themselves into 4th in the East because the Bucks right behind them lost. They lost their 4th in a row. They've got no defense during this losing streak. They've allowed over 125 in every game of the losing streak, and it's not because they had no one. They literally were playing no one against OKC. They weren't playing Giannis. They weren't playing Lillard. They weren't playing Brook. So how are they supposed to win?
They just decide on a schedule loss here. Is
Yeah.
that what they were doing? They're
I
like,
guess so. Yeah.
uh,
I mean, Trey said it yesterday. You're going to see a lot of different lineups here leading into the trade deadline. So I started thinking, is this going to happen? They absolutely can't trade anybody because they're so top heavy that if they trade multiple guys for one guy, like if they trade for a Jimmy Butler or whoever they're looking for, I just think they get so much weaker. Like during this streak, Bobby Portis has missed the entire streak, and I know it's just Bobby Portis, but it hurts. It just hurts not having him out there, and so I don't think they make a move here in the next couple days. And it looks like they're going to be locked into 5th and going to be going on the road again into Indiana like they did last year. Or hold on. They played last year in the playoffs, but the home team was the Pacers, right?
I can't remember.
No, Bucks were 3rd seed.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
Pacers were 6, right?
Oh, yeah, 3-6. Yeah. That's correct.
That game last night in Oklahoma. I mean, it's insane who was playing in this game. The Thunder won 125-96. The Thunder scored 9 points in the 4th quarter because they were up by 1,000,000, and then obviously didn't really matter how well they played or not in the 4th quarter. But we had for the Bucks, you had starters Chris Livingston, Ryan Rollins. These are guys. These are NBA guys. They started for Milwaukee last night. And then you had
guys.
on the Thunder bench, because it turned into garbage time, Alex Dukas, Bob Dukas's brother. He's got hot tub foot. Adam Flagler, we've talked about him. Dylan Jones is a guy playing in this game. I mean, it's wild when you look at this box score.
I'll be honest, I didn't watch this one, Skeets. But I'm kind of interested to see what was going on with Adam Flagler in the 4th quarter. Played the entire 4th, went 1 for 11.
Yeah, 0 for 8 from deep. He was letting it rip, man.
What was he doing?
He's letting it rip.
I was watching this game at the beginning, and the starting lineup comes up for the Bucks, and I thought, okay, this is a malfunction. Somebody messed up
Yeah.
in the
Livingston.
control room. But no, glad I picked them. for their plus 10.5. They're getting 10.5 points. They did not cover.
Any other games you wanted to address here from last night?
I thought a clutch tank loss from the Utah Jazz. They were up 8 with about 5 minutes left, and they just completely stopped scoring, and Siakam was giving it to him on the other end. He's making us look good for having him as an all-star. 10 points in the fourth quarter in that one. You mentioned Trey Murphy. This guy's on a heater right now. That'll pay dividends in the second or in next season at the very least. And the Wizards, they won back-to-back games now for the second time this season.
Yes, that's right. The Wizards up to, I believe, 8 wins now on the season. So,
Okay.
there's going to be no fear of them, having the worst record of all time. Because it sort of was, a little in play there when they only had 6 wins, basically, after 50 or so games. So, they're going to be okay.
3 of their 8 wins are against the Charlotte Hornets.
Okay.
Good for them. And
3 of them, and then 2 against the Hawks.
That's awesome, actually.
I don't know.
They won
They
back-to-back
definitely beat the
against
Hawks
in
twice.
the
I didn't know
beginning
they
of
beat the
season.
Hornets 3 times.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah, they beat I just saw they beat the Hornets every year a lot. But yes, 2 against the Hawks.
It's a big game, man. That's a rivalry game.
Let's get into some slop talk, some news. This one, big yesterday. According to Jake Fisher, the Golden State Warriors are exploring the possibility of trading for Kevin Durant from the Phoenix Suns. That's right. Reunited. Potentially. Can they do it? What was your reaction? And what do you think even the likelihood of this happening is, TK?
Well, I mean, it's the Warriors, so it ain't going to happen. How many players have they been involved in here so that they can show to their fans, we're trying. Trades are hard. That's the go-to motto for the Golden State Warriors front office. Anthony Slater reported yesterday basically saying they're desperate. Shams was saying they've called on every all-star in the league. I looked it up. That's 67 players. You think they called on Isaiah Thomas? I know he's in the G League, but he's an all-star. He might actually help this team.
Yeah.
A guy who can score with the ball in his hands. But it does make me think, is there a world where Kevin Durant is a little bit available right now? Because you're seeing some of that reporting as well, that if the Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler thing doesn't get done, if Beal won't waive his no-trade clause, how long is Kevin Durant going to want to stick around there? It's a guy that you can believe would want to leave a team,
Yes.
I think.
Sure.
And, it's like, why would the Thunder do that move yesterday? Why would the Rockets get all those future Suns picks during the summer? Is Kevin Durant in play?
He hasn't
Is
signed
he?
a contract extension beyond next season. That does give him a little bit of control, I guess, about his future if he wants to be rerouted somewhere. Phoenix would maintain a very high asking price, I believe, for Kevin Durant. So, you're looking at draft capital, you're looking at young players. If there's a Warriors-Suns hypothetical where KD comes, I assume someone like Jonathan Kuminga has to be involved in this deal. But, yeah, what do you think? Is this likely at all? Is this just great slop here from Fisher?
It would take 2 things. It would take the Suns saying, we're not trying anymore. They go from going for Jimmy Butler to, all right, we're giving up, essentially, if they're trying to give out Kevin Durant. And it would also take Kevin Durant saying, happy to go back to the Golden State Warriors, which I think there's a teeny part of him that isn't too proud to not do it. Because it would just be, man, I went there. I wasn't the number 1 guy, but I'm comfortable doing it again. I ain't winning here. And if you're the Warriors, you got to say, yeah, I think they would give up Jonathan Kuminga for a couple great years of Kevin Durant, at least probably 3 great years, including this one. 2.5 full years of Kevin Durant. Yeah, they would do it in a heartbeat. Especially we get this combined rumor with the Shams Charania rumor saying that they are calling everybody. My only question is, would they be calling for Paul George? Now, they tried to get him in the offseason, but would they be calling to go get him now under a 4-year contract where he hasn't played all that well? I would say no. Even though they've called for every All-Star.
Every All-Star.
Every All-Star.
They're on the phone for DeAndre Jordan.
DeAndre, come on, DeAndre.
For technicality, does every All-Star mean current All-Star or was ever an All-Star?
Good question.
Right?
Yeah,
obviously
this-
Paul
Ben
George-
Simmons, we need you.
Paul George was an All-Star last year, and they were rumored to be wanting him in the offseason. Paul George said they were coming at me. And now he goes and signs a 4-year max. I do not think that they would go get him. Do you guys think that there's a line in the All-Star list that they're looking at?
Well, it does feel like maybe Warriors ownership sees what goes down over the last 48 hours or so and goes, holy crap, Luka going to the Lakers. Oh, okay, Fox getting moved. Zach LaVine, a name that they were sort of tied to, gets moved to Sacramento. And maybe they're like, hey, Mike, what are you doing? Are you even calling anyone? Like get working the horns, man. And then we get like this, we're calling everybody suddenly. It feels like there's a part of that that's happening here. It's like, well, what are we doing?
What happened to our 2 timelines? The Lakers have the perfect 2 timelines.
Yeah.
They actually have a star for the next one.
Yeah, but Anthony Slater ended his article yesterday for The Athletic writing that the Warriors have maintained a willingness to take their star hunting to the summer if necessary, but Steph Curry's basketball clock is ticking. He turns 37 next month, and all stars are flying around the trade market at a greater rate than expected this week. End quote there from Slater. So, yeah, they should be working. I mean, we've been saying this for months. I mean, I've definitely been like saying, what are you doing, Warriors? I think you're blowing this, and you're like really should be leaning into give Curry a chance, basically, for a year or two here. And that involves moving some of these younger pieces and whatever draft capital to make it happen, to get a star guy. Who that is, Jimmy, Kevin, Paul.
Jimmy, Paul. The West became a tiny bit more open yesterday with Dallas saying, I don't know if we're going to get there. We're moving from Luka Doncic, so I think that opens things. But does it open up Matt Ishbia's new vision here? That's the thing. It's up to Matt Ishbia saying, we're not going for it for whatever reason. While the West seems to be open a little bit, they just freaking went for it with Bradley Beal. Not just, but I mean, they did try and make a Nick Richards move, so they would be totally doing a 180 to try and get out of this.
Here's one guy who will not be available to the Golden State Warriors. Nuggets coach Michael Malone quieted rumors that Michael Porter Jr. could be dealt this week. They had a big win over the Pels. He played great. MPJ did, and they said, we're not trading Michael Porter. Okay, that's the quote. Pretty damn clear. He says, we're not trading him. And a lot of people thinking if the Nuggets were going to make a move, they don't have a lot of like salaries, like bigger salaries that you would have to move to get another sort of star quality player back. So MPJ obviously has a big deal, but they're saying, no, he's a key part to our success here, has been and continue to be.
Michael Porter Jr., I don't think, has turned out what the Nuggets thought he was going to be. Hasn't become a guy who scores a ton with the ball in his hands, but good luck finding somebody who's 6'10" that shoots 50 from the field, 40 from 3 on 6 3-point attempts. Also, he's played every game this season for the Denver Nuggets. That being said, it's smokescreen season. You can't believe a word any of these people are saying. Mike Malone even hedged his own self talking about this when he said, no, because we're not trading Michael Porter, so I'm not touching base with anybody on that. And if there's something coming, obviously Calvin Booth will talk with me, and I'm sure we'll communicate with whatever players. So he's literally saying, we're not trading him, but if we're trading him, things will change.
Yeah.
I think it's more likely that it happens in the summer or at some point during the future. He's owed $80 million over the next 2 seasons.
Yep.
He does make sense as the contract that they would most likely want to move with his age and how much he makes. And obviously Jamal Murray is ahead of him in the pecking order. They're going to keep Jokic and Murray together ahead of keeping Jokic and Michael Porter Jr. together. I don't think it'll happen during this season, but it wouldn't surprise me if Porter's moved at some point on this contract.
I love rumors. I absolutely adore them, but I'm not reading into this one either. I just don't think the way their offense works, they need a guy, number one, who can shoot the 3, but is also just running plays on the perimeter. You see Russell and you see Christian Brown and their backdoor cuts and shooting from the corners. They need somebody up top to work with not only Jokic, but Jamal Murray a little bit. I mean, the dribble handoffs from Jokic to Michael Porter Jr., they're lethal, and that is part of their offense. And I just don't think that they would try and do something now after they gave up essentially last year by giving away Bruce Brown and now going into this KCP. I shouldn't say gave up, but they gave up their old chemistry, the one that won the title. So I don't think they do it right here, right now. He's been really solid for them. And just to throw something in like that now, throw that wrench in right here before the playoffs, when the West does seem open, it would seem like the wrong thing to do. Although financially, as Trae said, yes, that makes sense at some point. But I mean, Bruce Brown, bye-bye. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, bye-bye. To do it again, that just means they ain't winning, it would feel like.
To me, this just feels like a coach trying to keep the confidence of his, youngish player high here, who's rolling right now. Hey, yeah, your name's in all these trade rumors, but squash it. Don't worry. We're not trading you. I'm not trading you at the very least, is what he's sort of saying. I believe in you. You're important. You have been. You will be. And, keep that sort of flow going. But, will he finish his entire either contract or career with the Denver Nuggets? Unlikely. But sure, right now, before the deadline, I think they will probably stick with him.
They were a fourth quarter away from making it back to the conference finals last season.
Yeah.
The KCP thing happened. The Nuggets made the right call on that. He hasn't been very good for the Magic. Christian Brown has been awesome. Westbrook has been a steal for them this season. So I imagine they will try it again. If they fall short again this year, that's when I think they really start thinking about moving Michael Porter Jr., just because how many other ways are there to improve this team? They still owe a pick to the Magic for the Aaron Gordon trade. Aaron Gordon's not going anywhere. They just signed him. So I think that we'll see how the playoffs go for Denver.
All right, more reporting around the Mavericks' decision to trade Luka Doncic. It's spilled out over the last couple days here since that deal broke. Now, the two main stories, you got one on ESPN from Ramona Shelburne and Tim McMahon. That one titled Unfathomable, How the Stunning Luka-AD Trade Came Together. And then we got one from the Athletics powerhouse trio of Fred Katz, Joe Vardon, and Sam Amick, writing about the top secret trade negotiations that made Luka get to the Lakers. So I guess my question for you guys, you've read both of these. What was your biggest takeaway from now these, sort of detailed reporting here from ESPN and The Athletic when it comes to the Luka-AD trade and how it came about?
Well, the first thing is I'm not a fan of this slow drip coffee idea that takes 8 hours to drip. I've tried it.
Like the nitro coffees, huh?
Well, the inclusion of that little nitro, it sounds cool, but it doesn't really do anything.
This is in the ESPN article.
Yeah. Ramona Shelburne, boss, great. It's a great piece.
Setting the scene of the coffee house where the now infamous, first meeting between Pelinka and Nico Harrison went down.
Yes.
To start spitballing this trade idea.
Yes. I've never been to that coffee shop.
Sure.
But I have had a extreme slow drip Dutch coffee. It's just a coffee. It takes 8 hours to brew. We've had better with our man Marty at Broadsheet Coffee, and
he roasts a great bean.
It does taste like a great bean.
I bet it is.
That's brewed immediately, and it's good. Anyway, what this piece said to me was, especially the ESPN one, was a lot about the chemistry that Luka Doncic lacks in creating in a locker room. So there's a lot about his work ethic, but it's also just about it ain't fun to be around
his
him.
Personality, the culture. The culture kept being said a million times by Nico Harrison.
Nico's, I don't know if it was number one word, but it was high on there. I mean,
a lot of culture talk.
A lot of culture talk. And so I don't know. It's like a spider web here. It's being thrown up multiple ways. He's overweight and doesn't want to work all that hard. The lack of culture is there. The lack of defense is there. So those are the things that are sticking out right here, right now, to seemingly create this reason for not wanting Luka Doncic around.
Yeah, they're going hard on the conditioning. I think is basically the smear tactic here from the Dallas Mavericks, but also I think Luka played the most combined minutes of anybody in the season last year, including the playoffs when he led the entire playoffs in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. So maybe work on his conditioning if that's something you're really working about, which makes you think maybe it's something else. And it kind of feels like Nico Harrison maybe just didn't like Luka Doncic, right? Like traded Dorian Finney-Smith, his best friend, included Maxi Kleber in this trade. They mentioned how they fired like every coach he liked, all the trainers he liked, had to hire new trainers as well. At one point, they have a quote from Luka saying, "They get rid of everybody I like." It just seems like they made it untenable for Luka to want to stay around. Maybe he hadn't requested a trade. Maybe he hadn't said anything about not wanting to sign the Supermax. Nico talked about a tumultuous offseason coming for the Mavericks in summer 2025. So there just must have been a lot of tension, and maybe it comes from Harrison just not liking the way Luka carries himself.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Usually players win out, especially players of this stature. But the Mavericks are back in Nico Harrison.
Yeah, there's a quote from Harrison that says, there's other teams that were loading up to acquire Luka as a free agent. He was going to have to make his own decision at some point of whether he wants to be here or not, whether we want to supermax him or not, or whether he wants to opt out. Yeah, he keeps bringing up this idea, like, and it's like they sort of like go hand in hand. It feels like it's like, well, he doesn't like me, I don't really like him, therefore I'm worried about, first off, handing him a supermax contract and us continuing our relationship, or him hating me so much that he's like, I don't want to be here because I hate you and I want out of here. Like, so like we'll get ahead of it and we'll just trade him before that. Again, if that's what went down, if that's like this like conflict of like relationship and they butt heads, okay, strange you can't get over that, especially from Luka's side of things. It hasn't been like, I want out of here. We haven't heard any of that. They're not saying that either, but it's just so odd still that you just decided to talk to Rob Pelinka and the Lakers. I can't get over that part because they did not enter deep negotiations with any other team. I know there's one other team that they sort of kicked the tires on, but like they didn't. And he said, or this is from the ESPN article, Harrison decided early on, team sources said, that the best way to trade a player of Luka Doncic's caliber was to pick the trade that he wanted, Nico Harrison, rather than open up the process. To avoid Luka and his agent exerting their own leverage, it would also avoid the crippling fan backlash that might influence the deal. This is when we were reacting on the Emergency Podcast, and we were trying to figure out what the hell's going on here. Why'd they do it this way? I brought that up. I said, a part of this feels like he wanted to do this like secretly because you're going to trade Luka, and otherwise you had said, we're going to trade Luka, auction, let's go, get your best deals in. Like, the backlash would have been insane. It still is, by the way, but it would have been nuts. And I felt like a part of that's why they did that sort of in the shadows here, because he's got his tail between his legs a little bit because he knows how insane it is what he's doing. Trading Luka to Lakers.
Yeah, it's a good point, and it reminds me, and it was gone through in the ESPN article, how this has happened before, where these trades that are on the burner, they're gonna happen, but they take some time, end up being rough for everybody involved.
Yes.
I remember the Anthony Davis deal from New Orleans to the Lakers when he said, I want to be dealt to the Lakers, and it took them, I guess it was like 6 weeks. I don't know.
Yeah, but guess what? They got a better deal.
They did. They
just
got
did.
more than one pick, and Anthony Davis. And unfortunately, I initially thought that it must mean Luka's leaving, but that has definitely not been confirmed.
No.
And he was just purchasing a $15 million home, according to all reports and real reports, that he wanted in Dallas. Now, I think Nico Harrison should have just gone to the real estate agent and said, slow this flow. Or no, I guess he would be giving it away if he did that. He can't give it away. But he's saying all the things that he wants in, number one, a guy in the locker room, and number two, on the floor, when he says defense matters in our archetypes of players. And then you take a step back and you say basketball is as simple as a guy who leads your team to the finals, and the articles also says he gets quotes from people like, okay, this guy was averaging 27, 9, and 9 and leading us to the finals. And so there's obviously a lot of layers, and we've said, how much is this guy going to be the same guy in 3 or 4 years, I suppose, because it's also what Nico Harrison said, we're not making this trade just for now, but for the future, which is hard to believe when you got older.
Yeah. When you've like went with your star player being another mid 30-something guy instead of Luka in his mid 20s. One thing too, like Nico Harrison's press conference, when he praised Rob Pelinka's ability to keep the talks quiet, even though they had been going on for weeks. What? Of course Rob Pelinka's going to keep it quiet. Like, he's not that stupid. Like, yeah, we'll just talk just with you about getting Luka Doncic. Yeah, I won't broadcast this to Shams or any other reporters. Yeah, no problem, man. We can keep this under wraps. Like, what is he talking about? Nico Harrison, like, he was like, oh, that's my guy. That's my buddy, man. He kept us quiet. Yeah.
He really helped us out. Man.
Yeah. Insanity,
We
man.
did nothing for him.
Oh, just insane. But recommend you go read both these articles.
I do love the detail of Danny Ainge getting involved. He's like, "Ooh, you got some second-round draft picks? I'll get in this trade." Only to then find out it's the Lakers getting Luka Doncic. He must have been furious. That's really
that
funny.
Part was pretty funny.
Yeah, great curveball. And I was just left wondering, like, when you hear conditioning problems, it's always big guys. It's like Jokic. People had questions about his conditioning before the bubble. He came back in great shape and turned into a top 10 all-time player. Joel Embiid is a guy with conditioning issues. DeMarcus Cousins at one point. Shaq is obviously a huge one.
I mean, Barkley to some extent.
Okay, maybe Barkley is like the closest to Luka Doncic because it's rare to find perimeter guys. I tweeted it yesterday and people are like, Kyle Lowry? Fair. I think that's a fair one. Like Boris Diaw, and then people are like Khalid El-Amin. I was like, okay, yes. Yeah, that was a problem for sure, but not quite on the same level. But it's pretty rare for guards to get called out like that.
Yeah, it's a good call. And that's why people say, hey, 28, 9, and 9. I just upped his point per game. I think that was the right number, whatever it was quoted at. But 28, 9, and 9, you can't replicate that. So, yeah, I don't see how. I just don't see the physical projection of how this isn't going to work out in several years. Maybe Nico knows more, but he will be playing beside LeBron James again, and maybe LeBron can help him in that, in getting him set on his body a little bit more. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to find
that's the fear for the rest of the league.
Yeah.
Exactly that. That, oh my God, that this will be the thing that like somehow he goes even crazier, despite being already one of the greatest players, at least of his generation here, as being so young too. So we'll see. Go read those articles. Final one here. We got a trio of basketball Hall of Famers that are the 4 coaches who will serve as honorary head coaches for the Castrol Rising Stars. Yes, Castrol. Vroom, vroom, baby.
That's oil, right?
I think so, yeah. I don't know a lot about cars, but I believe it is. Tim Hardaway Sr., Chris Mullin, Mitch Richmond, all former Golden State Warriors. Yeah, Team T, Team M, Team C. They're going to serve as honorary coaches. And we got former NBA player and Warriors guard Jeremy Lin as the 4th head coach there for Team G League.
Cool.
You guys, okay, you like this,
Good get.
Yeah.
Yeah. At first I laughed at Team T, Team M, Team C. Why would you name them that? Obviously, it's the Warriors TMC.
Yeah, run TMC.
And I thought, it's better than previous iterations of this Rising Stars. Do you really remember the coaches? We all went through them. This is, for the hometown.
It's like Pau Gasol has done it a lot. Jalen Rose, I guess, has done it a lot.
Did they have Detlef Schrempf last year?
Yes, nice. He was there.
Yeah.
We had
with Darren Williams,
Tamika Catchings,
Utah. In Indiana.
Last year,
yeah, so
that's some
good
real
for them.
sicko behavior.
Yes,
yeah. Naming the honorary coaches for Rising Stars games.
Joakim Noah.
Yes.
He beasted it.
Yes.
But anyways, it's good for the hometown to have the TMC.
Sure.
Flashbacks.
Yeah. Could be some, some.
It's old.
Gently
That's
ribbing
old.
between the old guys there, the coaches, right?
Yeah. That's,
you gotta mic them up, let them have at it.
Chris Mullin, I think, is a known trash talker. I like that these guys still look the same as they did when they played for the Warriors. Like, they all got their same haircuts.
Right.
Tim and Mitch, they shaved their heads, and Chris is sticking with the flat top.
Yeah.
Crazy. So 2026, we're gonna be the All-Star game will be in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. Who are going to be the honorary coaches in the Los Angeles?
Well, I mean, Pau Gasol
could
be back in the...
but it's Clippers.
Clippers,
it's
it is
themed,
Clippers,
right? It's
yeah.
Intuit Dome.
Oh.
Wow. Elton Brand? Give me a Loy Vaught.
Bring back Loy Vaught. Why not?
Blake will do it. He's funny on the mic.
Oh,
Blake Griffin could be, especially since he's going to be on one. Is he Amazon or Peacock? I don't remember at this point. But he's
Amazon,
one of the broadcasters.
Would Bones do it? Would Brent Barry do it?
Wow.
It's not bad.
Rick Barry's done it?
Oh,
Rick Barry has done it. Yes.
Yeah, who else?
From Chris Kaman.
Chris Kaman.
You can lie down the entire game.
Team Chris.
Yeah, all right. Those are some suggestions. Let us know.
Oh, Darius Miles.
Oh,
Quentin Richardson.
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
podcasters as well.
For sure.
Okay, I like those
That's
guys.
good. That's
nice.
a good call. We just got to find the other 2. I like that start. Yeah, Blake. I think that's 3 right there. And we just need the 4th. We need a G League Clipper guy.
Mike Taylor. First player ever drafted from the G League into the NBA.
Jesus.
I think that's true.
Okay, well, let's honor him.
Check the facts.
All right.
Jamal Crawford will be used.
Oh,
that's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a
he's
good
a
one.
we probably
broadcaster.
just named the 4, honestly.
Yeah.
If they go Miles and Q Rich. Some unfortunate news. We will not be doing a live show in San Francisco after all. I know I told you on Friday, get ready. Tickets are coming. Here we go. Some unfortunate circumstances are not going to allow us to get there to San Fran to do the live show. So apologies if you are planning on joining us on February 14th. We were going to exchange Valentines, man. It was going to be great. But it won't be happening this year. So sorry. But don't you worry. We got some fun things in store for our All-Star Weekend coverage from here in Atlanta.
Maybe better.
Maybe better. Wow, better than a live show.
Well, yeah.
You want to do a live show here in the Classic Factory?
Yeah, let's do it.
Open up the garage doors and pile them in here.
You want to have our own dunk contest? Come over to my house, lower the rim.
I'm game. Always.
Careful, we got a slanty driveway.
Yeah.
Could be dangerous on the ankles, but
And would like if you dunked on your net, like would you tear it down? Like if you really hung on the net? Like it's not.
only one way to find out. You know, it was very, very sturdy until my dad accidentally backed over the water reservoir, completely emptying it. Now I got sandbags on top. Thanks, Dad.
Oh, jeez. Oh, he like cracked the water reservoir for the net.
Yeah, it's got a hole in it.
Oh, so yeah, it's definitely not holding us on dunking on it.
Yeah, it hasn't fallen in over a year. Let's risk it.
All right. Well, maybe we'll do that over All-Star Weekend. Bring back the dunk contest that we used to do. All right, let's get to a pick'em for tonight. Last night, a lot of us took the Thunder. We said, hey, that might be a scheduled victory. We were right. They easily covered the 10.5. Tass, you had the Bucks, so you're 0-1 here in February.
Definitely. I was excited about the Lakers going to visit the Clippers. Or is Luka debuting? Although that is highly unlikely. So I went with just another doozy. Boston in Cleveland. 1-2 here in the Eastern Conference. Cleveland, it's basically a pick-em. They're favored by 1.5. I was surprised that 2 of us picked Cleveland. Skeets and I, and 2 picked Boston, Trae and Ash.
Okay, we're split.
Splits.
Are those the TNT games tonight then? Boston, Cleveland, and then Clips, Lakers?
This one, Cleveland, Boston is definitely TNT.
I would think the other one is, wouldn't you?
You would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
That's pretty tasty. Pretty tasty for a Tuesday night. All right, so we're split 1.5. Cleveland as the favorites there. Let's call it there. Thanks for joining us. Again, hit the like button, subscribe. We got to get off the air because you never know when we're going to have to do an emergency podcast. That's how we have to live this week. You know, you just got to be always ready, always available.
Do you think we'll get another one before actual Thursday trade deadline day?
Nora asked me that today. Like, are you going to get another big trade? And I was like, I don't think so until the deadline.
I agree.
Like, if Jimmy Butler is traded, maybe Vucevic. I mean, well, this KD one's obviously interesting. If that happens, that's huge. But
Oh, yeah.
no, I don't. I think if we get on, it happens on the Thursday. Tass, you think we got one more in us?
I don't have one. I don't have one that I know is happening beforehand.
Okay. Well, we're going to be here, obviously, tomorrow. We'll be here on Thursday morning, and then we plan on going live for the deadline again on Thursday in the afternoon around 2 or 3 p.m. Eastern, probably building up to the actual deadline. So 2 p.m. Eastern, let's call it. So 2 shows on Thursday, then the drop on Friday. So lots of No Dunks content coming your way. Till then, Clipper Bros!
You heard it here first. Have a great time. Turn up. Love you guys. Awesome.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, the best quote, I think, from the Luka Doncic trade was from Anthony Edwards. He said, quote, "I'm scared. Tim, if you're going to trade me, let me know, dog."
Praise the day, people.